Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show where we look at the highs and the lows from the Premier League game week just past. And, you know, Zach, you give me a natural high. It's a good job you're here, mate. You know, Sam Obaseki dropped out last minute, so you're picking up the baton for Team Chelsea. How are you after your weekend?
Not too bad. Yeah, we should probably say Sam's ill, so it's, not his own fault. But yeah, not too bad. Had a little cocktail night with the boys, made our own cocktails, little fit 500-ish, brought them into the living room, rated them, and they were pretty good. So my weekend wasn't too bad. How about yours?
Go on then, give me your recipe.
It weren't anything too fancy. It was, mango, a bit of rum, lime, and I'm pretty sure that was it. Kieran's was incredible. Wow, I couldn't even tell you what Kieran's was, but he put a picture on Twitter, so check that out. It was incredible.
So you effectively made a rum punch.
Yeah.
Simple,
but effective.
I like it. Anyway, less about your slumber party and more about the weekend's football. But before we kick off with a talking point, which is, the hunt for the Champions League places, because this weekend's results blew things wide open again, didn't it? Yeah. Let's just plug our sponsors, Manscaped, who have agreed to sponsor our Winners and Losers, and we need to talk until the end of the season. Love that backing from them. It's desperately needed in times like this. So, while we can't get trims yet, and my God, do I miss the skin fade. I have to manually gel down the sides of my
Sonny
hair
did mine.
because they puff out. We can tidy up our tallywhackers, Zach. All right, and you can get 20% off Manscaped's stellar products and free shipping with the code on screen now. Visit the link in the description below as well to find out further details. If you've already done it, we honestly can't thank you enough, because that support does go directly back into the channel, and every click, every little deal helps right now. Let's move on to the talking point, and that is Champions League places, like I said. But before we start, I want everyone who's watching now to get their top 4 or top 6. Now, let's say top 4 in the comments below right now. And if you call it correctly, come the end of the season, I want you to take a screenshot. We will shout you out on an end of season special, right? You have my word, because 10 points separate 3rd and 9th. And Everton, Tottenham and Villa all have games in hand. So it's a really, really tough one to call at current. Of course, some of those spare games are being played this week, so maybe we'll have a better indication of things come Sunday. But for now, Zach, what was your prediction at the start of the season, and has it changed? Here's your opportunity to tinker with that top 4 right now.
Completely. I think anyone that's predicting a top 4, that could be this season at the beginning of the season is a guy that can look into the future. I don't think anyone would have had
crazy
Liverpool.
Genius.
Yeah, no one would have had Liverpool out of that top 4. I think mine was City, Liverpool, or Liverpool, City. Chelsea were in there, and I think I must have said it wouldn't have been Leicester. It must have been United. Yeah, so a combination of them, and it looks like 2 of them could possibly drop out, with the way Leicester City are kind of up there, as you said. Everton have a game in hand. Everyone's kind of fighting for that position, for that 4th spot. I mean, I'm pretty sure City United are okay. The draw yesterday was a better draw for United than it was for Chelsea. That 1 point, it definitely helped them out a bit more. So, yeah, if I was to kind of look at the top 4 now and maybe give you a prediction, I would be saying obviously City, United, and then I would go on to maybe say even Leicester now. I mean, again, Leicester having those injuries, all those injuries that happened yesterday. Harvey Barnes going out, Evans going off, already without James Maddison, Justin's out. They have been so unfortunate. To have so many injuries, especially kind of now when we're getting to that latter end of the season, that the final third of that season. They play Chelsea on the last day of the season, and that game could literally be a Champions League defining game if it carries on at this rate. So yeah, you'd have to be a betting man to maybe get it right. But yeah, it's definitely changed from the start of this season. I had Liverpool in there. I don't see them making top 4 this season. And I had Chelsea in there, and I really hope they do make top 4, but I was probably predicting them to be, 2nd or 3rd, not 4th spot, which it looks like it may end up being. with the summer transfer signings. I think many people probably did. So yeah, those. So it's definitely changed in some aspect. But I mean, it's hard to predict, especially with the way this season's going. Anyone beats anyone, and one bad weekend for one of the teams becomes an incredible weekend for four of the others.
Right, you are. And that is why I've asked you guys to guess. If you can nail it, like I said, we'll shout you out. Make sure you stop this episode of Winners and Losers right now. Oh, Winners and Losers even. And leave us your predictions. Anyway, enough of that. I won't bore you with mine. Let's talk about some of the action that unfurled at the top of the table then, starting with Leicester's loss to Arsenal. I mean, had the Foxes been able to clinch a result here, they could have gone 8 points clear of Chelsea and remained in second. But instead, they lost 3-1. And the result's somewhat of a surprise given how good Brendan Rodgers' record against Arsenal has been since he came to Leicester. The Northern Irishman winning 4 of the previous 6 prior to this result, losing just once. And that form didn't look like it was going to change, did it? When Youri Tielemans bagged his 6th goal of the season after just 6 minutes. He's been in fine form in recent months. But that was as good as it got for Leicester. Like you said, lost a couple of key players to injuries. The lineup already, had to be tinkered with. On came Albrighton. On came... who else in this game? It was Daniel Amati at centre-half.
Yeah.
But even before that, did Leicester's approach post going ahead surprise you, Zach? Because they became a little bit conservative all of a sudden, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a weird one, really. It was bad defending for the first goal. Jesus, I don't know what Pablo Mari's doing. With just backing off and letting Tielemans have that space, especially when Xhaka isn't the quickest of guys on that field to catch up. But yeah, for Leicester it was odd. It was kind of as if they were happy to kind of let Arsenal have the ball at times. It was weird. There was one chance they had Harvey Barnes a shot from outside the box as well that tests Leno, and maybe it could have dropped to someone for a rebound. But apart from that, it just wasn't the normal Leicester side. But then the Leicester side that is kind of all guns blazing at times, especially when they're fully fit. I think that was the big issue here. James Maddison has been so important this season for them, and he said personally so many times that he's trying to take his game to the next level. And you think maybe Leicester have missed that. Vardy, since he's come back from his injury as well, hasn't seemed quite the same. He isn't necessarily chasing down every ball. Maybe it's still, he's still got a bit of a side effect from that injury, or maybe he's just getting on. I wouldn't say it's the decline of Vardy at all. I'm pretty sure he'll be back amongst the goals very soon. But yeah, he just didn't seem quite at it this game. So yeah, it was an odd one from Leicester. That being said as well, I thought Arsenal did pretty well in that midfield battle. As you said, the first 10 minutes Leicester won it. The 80 minutes after that, it was Arsenal. So we probably have to say that as well. However, if I'm Brendan Rodgers, I'll be watching that game back quite a lot, because you don't want a second season of this to happen where you are looking like you're going in for a Champions League place. You're decently ahead for a Champions League place, and if they were to screw it up again, having also been knocked out of Europe now, they don't even have the Europa League to even worry about. It's probably a huge concern. They can't be the nearly team every season.
Yeah, especially with those injuries. I think the momentum's okay, right? This was the first league loss for quite some time. Obviously, going out of the Europa League has kind of made this week seem a little bit more doom and gloom than it maybe is with regards to the league. But yeah, having those players out and losing such a key game at home, not great. Of course, you just intimated there. Maddison missing out with a hip issue, but Rodgers said it won't require surgery, hopefully. I think Vardy's now got 1 in his last 11 or 12 games. He came back from surgery at a staggering rate.
Yes.
It was... I think he seemed to recover in like 2 or 3 weeks, didn't he? So maybe that is a factor. Obviously, Kelechi missed a sitter in this game and was kind of occupying that 10 position. He was trying to dink those balls over the top for Jamie Vardy. Wasn't quite working. That's not his natural game, and it is a huge downgrade having him occupy that space. And Pepe gave Luke Thomas a really hard time at left back, and he's a really promising youngster, and he has like strong physical attributes, but his game management in that regard forced Rodgers to make a substitute at half time. So it was kind of like death by 1,000 cuts for Leicester in this game, but I don't think they did one thing like totally wrong. But Arsenal were better as a whole, and it came as a surprise, didn't it? Because Arteta made 6 changes to his side, and it certainly raised a few eyebrows with that lineup. But he's stuck by his under fire stars, Xhaka, Willian, Pepe, Luiz. This was arguably David Luiz's best or second best defensive showing of the season after that 0-0 draw with Manchester United when he was a behemoth. But what did you think to the likes of Pepe and Xhaka's performance in this 90 minutes, mate?
Much improved. I actually think Pepe recently has been better. He's not been the level of what his price tag has said, but he's definitely been better, which is good. He's showing improvements. Arsenal were apart from that first 10 minutes, apart from that awful defending at the very beginning, they switched it on. They switched it on afterwards. Willian had his his one good game out of 3 for the season yesterday, it seemed, and it came probably at the right time for them. Luiz as well, I thought, played very well. When Arsenal got Luiz, I think it was £8 million. I remember saying, the guy is rash. He's not the greatest of defenders. However, he is fine. David Luiz probably... the fact he's had the most red cards since his transfer and all that kind of stuff doesn't help his case, but he is a fine defender. And I thought the way he scored his goal for that header was a fantastic header. That's not an easy header to do, kind of going towards the ground.
Fantastic finish.
By the penalty spot as well. It's quite far out, if not a bit further. And also having, going amongst people's feet. And Didi, I'm pretty sure, was trying to clear it. So it's a brave goal. And Xhaka was really good too. You know what? Xhaka actually recently hasn't actually been that bad. He's been probably one of Arsenal's better players of recent times. Mm-hmm. Maybe cause of concern the fact that Emile Smith-Rowe, I think, is starting to look a little bit tired. The amount of games that Arsenal are playing at the moment it is worrying. That's why you might maybe see a bit more of Willian probably featuring the squad a couple more times and things like that. Like when Emile Smith-Rowe was on, he I don't know. I think maybe he needs a little bit of a break because he is a great player. He talked to some commentators. They say he's the next coming of Messi, but he is very, very good. But Arsenal in general, decent. They can work on that, and I'm pretty sure they'll take that in their stride because I think beforehand, if you'd asked them what the score was going to be, they would have taken a draw. So a 3-1 win is fantastic, Saints.
Yeah. Pepe, like you said, has been a lot better recently. 4 goals in 7 starts. It's as many as his previous 21, so certainly come to form at the right time. Xhaka, 5 tackles and interceptions yesterday, which was a team high and double the amount he normally averages. Wow. So he really did step it up away from home. And I thought very progressive, very positive with his passing. We saw that in the build-up to Pepe's goal, right? He picks it up from deep and sort of pings it out to the right-hand side and sets his team on their way. And it all amounted to Arsenal's first away victory against a team occupying a top 3 position since January 2015.
Oh my God.
So, yes, when Arteta says he likes what he's seeing and that the improvement is incremental, but it's there, I would be inclined to agree. Right, let's talk Chelsea then. I want to give you the floor here, Zach. No stats from me, just vibes, mate. Where did it go right? Where did it go wrong? And was it a penalty or not?
You know what? It felt like Chelsea's season yesterday, where defensively we're much improved. Defensively we're really good. Christensen, I thought, had a fantastic game. He's brilliant in this back 3. Rudiger was also very good. We nullified them and didn't really give them that many chances. I think that's why the penalty claim was such a big thing, because there was nothing else for United fans to really talk about. Kante, superb, just nullifying Bruno Fernandes. He's, I think people maybe probably make a bit too much out of the fact that he's not necessarily turning up this season against the traditional top 6. However, he wasn't doing much yesterday. I thought for United as well, they were unfortunate with their final passes. But as for Chelsea, look, it's that last ball for us at the moment. It's that last ball, or it's that finish. So many times, there were too many chances yesterday. The fact that we didn't score a goal. Giroud's...
You got Brighton syndrome.
Yeah. You know what, we had to a degree. Yeah, maybe not as bad, but sure. Giroud's it's don't get me wrong. If Giroud gets on the end of it, you're like, great finish. So it's a bit 50-50 that one, but it's a fantastic ball in from Callum Hudson-Odoi. Maybe if Giroud's a year or two younger, he gets there a little bit quicker. The Ziyech chance, I just think you have to score. Like, okay, it's a good save. It's a really good save from De Gea. But if you're in that situation, you don't want to give him the chance. Like, what Ziyech does with his shot is give De Gea the chance. He puts it kind of not necessarily at him, but close enough to him so he can get a hand to it. Whereas there, it's on your left foot. It's the perfect opportunity for you. Put it bottom corner. And that was really it for him. Like, Ziyech in general didn't have maybe necessarily the best game. I think from a defensive standpoint, he probably was okay. We know how much Tuchel loves his counter pressing, and he was very good. Mason's chance, it was a little flick from Ziyech. He goes through, could probably do better. So in an attacking sense, I think I'm even missing a couple of chances that we had as well. But in an attacking sense, we need to get better. I think there's too many times now recently where we say we created the chances, we didn't score the goals, and it was the same under Lampard. I think there is definitely probably more of a philosophy or a way of playing the way we play our football at the moment. But it's even things like when we get the ball at times in midfield yesterday, no one wanted to be. It's like both teams, actually. No one wanted to kind of push it too much in case it started a counter-attack and they conceded. No one wanted to try that aggressive ball over the top that may lose us possession but may also get us a goal. It was a little bit too safe for my liking. And I find it a little bit frustrating when... If you're a United defence at times, you kind of see... If Kovacic is on the ball, you're not worried about Kovacic shooting. The same with Kante. And obviously their job isn't to score the goals, but it's at least giving you that threat. The fact that McTominay can score. The fact that Xhaka can shoot from outside the box. With Kovacic and Kante and even Jorginho, right? Like, there's not that threat of scoring. It's mainly about creating a chance, giving the ball to someone else who can do the chance. As I said, it's not their job to score goals, but it's about giving that option.
I mean, if Kovacic isn't driving the ball on, he's not doing a significantly different job.
Precisely.
To N'Golo Kante. Both their passing, I agree, was very conservative.
Precisely.
Very backwards. Like, there was some tiny little, passages of play where Kovacic was like super press resistant, and then like I would see him sort of break past the first line, take a look up, and then sort of ferry it out sideways. And I think he's kind of missed that like forward endeavour in his game. A little bit, but he did manage to exert like much more control over this fixture. I felt that Chelsea were the more likely side
for sure.
to steal a result. So positive.
Yeah. I mean, we two like what last season beginning we lost 4-0 to United. We then lost to them again and again. And then we beat them in the FA Cup. And this year we played them, with Lampard 0-0. It was definitely a better game than the one at Old Trafford. That one was so conservative. If you're a neutral fan, that's probably the best 0-0 you can watch. It's actually a fun 0-0, especially in that first half.
I think the first half.
Yeah.
The first half was good, and then the second half, I think. Like, Tuchel tries to switch it up, right? But it doesn't quite work. But at least he's being proactive in that regard.
Yeah, I think maybe he could bring on Werner 10 minutes earlier or so. Like, I just think with the way Maguire and Lindelof have been this season, we didn't attack them enough. It was too comfortable. It was all like we were, especially when you're playing with Giroud. Like, it's what Maguire wants. He wants it to be physical. Whereas the second, you're letting Maguire maybe have to think about what he's got to do. That could have been a bit better. But and then we get to the penalty. And as I said, like, I think the penalty was kind of blown out of proportion. Personally, I do think it's a penalty. Yes, it hits his hand. With the way the handball's been regarded this season, it probably is a penalty. However, I also understand as to why it's not been given. So, and because United didn't have any other chances, I think that's why it was so blown out of the water, being like, oh my God, this is the worst decision ever made, if you'd have listened to it or gone on Twitter afterwards. Now, I would also say karma to a degree as well. I mean, what happened with Maguire and Azpilicueta at Old Trafford is also something that people could bring up as well. I think the thing is, the issue with the handball rule is always going to be subjective. I think the referee is according to the referee, he says that Hudson-Odoi doesn't bring his hand towards the ball. He believes then that his hand is in a natural position for that situation. I think Graham Souness said afterwards that like it looked as if they were about to collide with each other, so they're preparing themselves for getting into contact or whatever. You know, I think. Which is
they both kind of had their arms up, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I suppose the interpretation of it has changed midway through the season, which has probably thrown some fans. And when you say like it's subjective, obviously it is because the ref is having to call it as he sees it, and VAR will only interfere if it's a clear and obvious error, right? But I think it's just been difficult for fans to follow in with regards to consistency.
Yes.
Like, is this a penalty, you know, or not by the letter of the law? And I suppose if it's that if the arm's in a natural position in the penalty area and the ball strikes it, it's a penalty. So I don't understand how in this instance, like I can understand how the ref misses that in real time and doesn't perceive it as a penalty in real time. But then if you watch that on the monitor, I don't understand how you
so he must assume that it's in a natural position for what's happening in that situation. Like his hand isn't in the way like Ndidi's was for Arsenal, right? That is a penalty. I completely agree. And as I said, I do think it is a penalty. However, I guess the referee must assume that it's in a natural position.
Maybe running away from the box is the referee's decision there. Like I feel like if that's going in the box, that can't be denied. And there you think, well, that shouldn't necessarily be the case. But
I mean, it shouldn't have. Like, if we're going into nitty gritty, like it shouldn't have happened anyway. I didn't think it was a free kick on McTominay, and then Mendy should do better. He shouldn't really punch that away. But because when it happened in real time, I think even the Chelsea players claimed handball, but for Greenwood rather than Hudson-Odoi. But I kind of think that's why it was so big, because United didn't really have any chances. I think Chelsea actually did very well defensively. Chilwell I thought was good, considering it was his first game back. It wasn't the most fun 0-0 in terms of being a fan for either side, but if you're the neutral, it must have been good fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with Tuchel that it was a high quality game. It did peter off second half that Chelsea were closer to winning it, but meanwhile, I mean, Ollie went on a bit of a strange rant, didn't he, post-match? And I thought, why not include it?
You know, it's all these outside influences, you know, even the VAR talk before the game here on Harry. That's cheeky, actually cheeky when they put that on their website. That's influencing the referees.
What was that?
Nah, you can go back and look at the websites.
In terms of, I generally don't know, Ollie.
As in, you can read it, what they're saying about all the controversy about Harry Maguire and putting pressure on the referees to give penalties against us.
This week's winners then can only be really one guy, and it comes from B Spursy, and if you've not guessed it by now, it's Gareth Bale, who has been involved in 7 goals in his last 4 games, following that 4-0 home demolition of 15th placed Burnley. Now, he only lasted 70 minutes, didn't he? But his numbers in this 90 do suggest that his return to full fitness is almost complete. Yeah. I mean, it's taken long enough, but I'm just glad it's happened at this point. Great to see him back out there enjoying his football. 3 shots, 2 completed dribbles, 2 headers, 1 key pass. Now, Zach, there were some tactical tweaks in there for Jose's men. They deployed a 4-2-3-1, had Lucas Moura at number 10 instead of Ali. What did you think to that? And surely it's only a matter of time before we see those guys together, right?
It was interesting. I think Mourinho really likes Moura, and obviously doesn't really like Ali by the looks of it. And they are different players in the way they play. Ali's very much kind of second striker-ish, and Moura, I guess, is what you consider more of a traditional 10 per se. So I kind of understand it. He had a good game. Didn't think Burnley were that great, but Moura was okay. He kind of, I guess the scoreline shows that he deserved his place with him chipping in, helping out. And Bale looked really good. That front 3, and then I guess 4 if you add the likes of Ali, is arguably one of the best in the world in terms of namesake, and when they're all playing at the top of their game. Harry Kane, Gareth Bale, Heung-min Son is ridiculous. Then Dele Alli, it can be a manager's dream. And Bale recently, which is good to see. I don't think Bale's never going to reach the heights of what he had last time he was at Spurs. like if people are expecting that, then you're always going to be disappointed. It's just not going to happen. He's too old, especially he's had too many injuries. But what looked really good for Bale yesterday was he had his explosiveness back, which he hadn't had for a while now. There was a moment early on in the first half against Burnley where he kind of did the traditional Bale thing where he hits the ball further ahead than the player and sprints past him. He hadn't been doing that recently, and it was good to see that. And as you said, the ball he did to find Kane was fantastic. And I think if you're a Spurs fan, that was your dream front three, front four-esque players kind of all contributing and helping out. It's an attack that Premier League defences and any defence in the world would be scared of. And if Mourinho can get them all playing and all fit, because that's the key with half of those players and playing at their best, then it's one of the best in the Prem. Maybe it's come a little bit too late. Who knows what happens next season? Whether Gareth stays at Spurs or whatever, then it's not enough to maybe get them top four now, but it's definitely maybe enough to try and get them in the Europa League.
Yeah. I'd be inclined to agree with the aspects you've said there. What I do think is interesting about this lineup is that he probably doesn't start at Jose against a big side because Bale does no defensive work, and I think he's under a tackle and interception a game, which is unsurprising at this point, isn't it? And he is one of the worst pressers at the club. I was looking at the success rate of their defensive actions last night, and Bale is like third bottom with 18.6%. So off the ball is really ineffective, which means at this point he has to be great on it, and he was in this game in order to justify his starting position. But I think in a big game he probably makes that right hand side a defensive liability, doesn't he? Because Tanguy Ndombele had to drop into the double pivot, and Serge Aurier came back in at right back, and I think you look at that right flank against a top 4-5 opposition and you think, they're probably going to target it. Unless, they were a ball-dominant side and Gareth Bale was on the ball all the time and he was pulling the strings. Obviously, his finishing inside the box is still great, and his range of passing is truly impressive. But Tottenham aren't a team that dominate the ball. So it's difficult. It's difficult to work out whether he's going to stick with that in the long run. But they do have games coming up against Fulham, and I think he probably will retain that lineup for Fulham. I think it's Fulham, Palace and Dinamo Zagreb. So the next 3 games, very, very winnable. And the Bale comeback at the moment, maybe the Europa League is sexing up those numbers somewhat, right? Because he's got 5 goals and assists in 3 Premier League starts, and they're against Burnley, West Ham and Brighton. So it'd be great to see him entrusted with a starting position against a top side, but still not sure if that's going to happen. But long may the positivity reign, Zach. Long may it reign. They're currently 5 points off Chelsea with a game in hand. Right, let's move on to our losers then. And a lot of people taking great, amounts of glee in the fact that Brighton, at least on my timeline anyway, missed 2 penalties, had a free kick bizarrely disallowed. This comes from Zidane's Barber, by the way. Thank you for getting your suggestions in. Always look out for the tweet on my timeline on a Sunday PM. But yeah, they somehow endeavoured to lose 1-0 to Big Sam's West Brom at the Hawthorns. But before Zach and I weigh in, round this show off, I think instead of discussing it, particularly the free kick incident, let's just hear it from Lewis Dunk, who actually took the bloody thing.
It's embarrassing. It's a horrendous decision. I said to the ref, can I take it? He blew his whistle, I took it. Just because he got so much pressure from the bench and the players, he just allowed to go. VR, I don't know what he said. It's a horrendous decision. Why don't he come speak to the press, like me? Why don't he come and say his point? Never. They hide behind their bubble, it's fine, isn't it?
Zach, so obviously Lewis Dunk not happy there at all. I want to ask you a quick one. If a ref says in your ear, if he confirms you can take a quick free kick, should VAR then be allowed to come in and sort of overrule that reaction and help out the referee in that instance, so to speak? Because I think the official party line was it was disallowed because the ref managed to blow the whistle for a second time just before it went in.
I don't know what's happened in that incident. It's mental. It's like the referee forgot what he said 2 seconds ago. It's great from Dunk. I think it's a really nice quick free kick.
And that sort of play should be rewarded, right?
This is the whole point of football, right? And decisions has always been about giving the attacker the benefit of the doubt. right, and helping. It's not about making sure you don't concede goals. Like, that's not what football's about. It's about trying to help the attacker in these kind of circumstances. And just because the goalkeeper's not on his line ready isn't Lewis Dunk's fault. It isn't the referee's fault. It's no one's fault apart from his own. It's Sam Johnson. And Sam Johnson realises this because he scurries back in to try and get into position. Like, if he'd fully believed that, this wasn't allowed, he would have just stood there and been like, what's happening here? But he realises this and doesn't get there in time. And then the referee says it blows it again before it. It makes no sense. It makes no
bizarre.
sense. I think it's
Bizarre.
one of those incidents that just it's nuts and probably won't see again for a long time in the Premier League or in football for that matter. But it was the wrong decision, put it that way.
Yeah, how Graham Potter's managed to retain his head in the post-match is beyond me, particularly as that is now 40 shots Brighton have produced to 9 in reply in their last 2 games and they've only managed to score 1 goal in that process, conceding 3. Now, had they taken the 6 points which they deserved in these 2 fixtures, and yes, I am a Potter fanatic, but I think it would take, someone who... I don't understand how you could watch those games and disagree with that conclusion. I mean, they'd be sitting in 14th and we wouldn't be discussing about them as relegation candidates. And I think, 12th, 13th, 14th is probably a fairer reflection of the level they are playing at current than sort of battling it out with Burnley and Newcastle and Fulham for that final relegation spot. Now, what I want to say is, because people do think that I'm sort of giving Graham Potter a free ride when it comes to Brighton's poor results. What I want to say is he's not infallible, but he is extremely unlucky at the moment. And that's the crux of the argument. That is the main point. And I think that people that fail to acknowledge that are confusing bad results with bad performances, right? And I'd even go one further. Like, I think people that are questioning, why he is sticking to his system at current despite mixed results. I think they're understanding like the results that his system is rearing, right? They are producing a lot of high quality chances and limiting the opposition to low quality chances. But yet they're not coming away with the results. That's where you stay the course, hope that luck, reverts to the mean, and they eventually climb their way up the table. But I do think that the Brighton players in this instance should take more flack because they're now costing their manager dearly, aren't they? And 2 penalties, obviously the free kick disallowed, Connolly as well, blasting over from 4 or 5 yards. It's just really poor stuff. I mean, if you were Brighton's director of football in the summer, Zach, I mean, who would you be shopping for and why? Because I mean, it's definitely going to be a striker, isn't it? But do any candidates spring to mind?
Jesus, who is there? The issue for them is the actual amount of money they have to spend here. It's this summer's transfer window. I guess you would assume maybe a little bit more normal than maybe the one that's just happened. Clubs may be more willing to sell rather than do loan deals and all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to think of what strikers.
A lot of Brighton fans are saying Edouard from Celtic, but I think he will probably go to a club of higher standing, and I hold Brighton in pretty high regard. But I think Arsenal have been sniffing around. West Ham have bid for him. No, they bid for Moussa Dembele in the past. Well, there's teams of that ilk kind of sniffing around. So I think you'll have better options, to be honest.
Yeah, but he's along the right lines. Like as you said, they need. Mapai has fallen off a cliff. This season in particular. Connolly, I think, is still very young, and whether he's Premier League ready just yet, I'm not too sure. I think we've seen
he's like
2
21
seasons.
though, mate.
21 is still it's still young. It is still young. I mean, maybe he's more of a Championship striker. Who knows? Like, I don't see Brighton letting go of him unless they get a decent fee maybe attached. But you're right. Like,
I think you've nailed it there. Like he's probably he's a decent option from the bench, right? And he's got decent pace and he's got a good work ethic. Like he's an okay little presser. But like him and Mopé together, I think is a real issue. They seem to cross wires all the time in the box. Their link up play is pretty.
I've figured it out, Amel. Bring back Glenn Murray.
37-year-old Glenn Murray.
He knows how to find the back of the net, mate. He knows. He's done it before. He can do it again. But they just need it. They need
Zach
someone
just
who can
turned
do
to Sam
that.
Allardyce.
Hey, I'm still living off of the vibe when he should have gone to the World Cup, mate. He would have passed it. But,
Right, I think to round off this section, let's listen to Graham Potter's post-match, because typically calm, typically poised, but concedes that they need to start taking their chances.
Well, we're frustrated because we've lost the game, and that's where the frustration is. You have to believe that if you keep doing the right things or you keep trying to improve, that things turn around for you. It's the Premier League. You have moments where you suffer. But not so long back, we were on a really good run and we were picking up some results and doing things well. So it is what it is. It turns around quickly. We have to make sure we turn it around in our favour in the next match, which will be, I think, on Saturday against Leicester.
Zach, all by yourself this week for moments of the weekend, so your vote holds the ultimate power. I want you to pick one of these three to clinch it. Folds Ashley has sent his in. Moment of the weekend is that outrageous goal scored in the Notts County game that might as well win the Puskas right now, which was, if you haven't seen it, go and check it out on Twitter. A venomous little back heel. Don't know how he's managed to get it over the keeper's head as well. Ollie Coulson has said Manchester City's centre-backs extending their run to 20. Could have been included in this week's winners and losers after 20 victories on the bounce. But, I'm sure we'll talk about them in due course. And at L_THFC saying moment of the weekend has to be Bale re-announcing himself to the Premier League. What would you go for?
Not Bale. We've already spoken about Bale. He's had his glory. City's centre backs. Not going to talk about them because again we'll talk about them in the future. So yeah, Notts County's goal. It's an absolute delightful finish. How he does that, I don't know. But if you haven't watched it, go over to Twitter, type it in. It's probably the winner of the best goal of the year, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah, deservedly so. Let's plug some shows then we've got coming up. Zach, what are you involved in this week on Football Daily?
Snapchat, my friends. Go over to there. If you've not downloaded it, download Snapchat first, then make an account, and then search for the Football Daily. We bring you daily stories, and also search for Transfer Talk, where we bring you the latest gossip around the world of football. Apart from that, I guess there's Wheelie to Talk. There's the Football Daily podcast channel where Chris and Pat said some really nice things about me.
Oh, did you have a listen, did you?
I did. It was
never intended
very
you
cute
to hear those kind words. Right, that's it from us. Let me know, again, your top 4 in the comments below. And if you want to take advantage of the 20% off deal that we have with Manscaped at the moment, a quick reminder to check out the link in the description, or, use the code that's on the screen right now. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And, stay tuned for ERU in an hour's time.